Hi guys, Aceface back, and I'm back with some more Tyranid tactics, some more advice from the Hive Mind, advanced Tyranid Tactica. I know you've been waiting for it and it's back. So guys, before I get started, just want to point you in the direction of some ways that you can follow me and some more cool content coming out. So if you haven't already, if you want to see some cool battle reports with Tyranids and loads of other cool armies, you can check me out over on Twisted Dice. We put out an awesome battle report every week without fail. Some of the best looking armies you're likely to see on any battle report, lots of banter, and we had pretty much every army catered for. So if there's an army you want to see, there's a very good chance that we have it on Twisted Dice. So definitely go over and sub to Twisted Dice, check it out, do that, do not fail. The link will be in the description below. Jump over and give us a sub. If you want to follow me further, the best place to follow me is over on Instagram. I post on there all the time. You get an opportunity to see all my work in progress bits. I even do the odd little video on there I've started doing as well. So lots of cool stuff over on Instagram. Definitely probably I'm more active on there more than anything else. You'll see what battle reports are coming up. You'll see what I'm working on. You name it, you'll see it. I post updates on Facebook as well, so you can catch me on Facebook. And if you'd like to support me further and become a patron of Aceface, you can do that. Over on Patreon, you can grab yourself some dice, some exclusive dice. I don't sell my dice currently; they are just for my patrons. So you can grab yourself some Patreon dice. I'm doing t-shirts, so you can get yourself a cool exclusive Aceface t-shirt. You can become part of the Discord server where you can chat about hobby, get advice from like-minded people, talk to me, suggest content that you want to see, all sorts, you name it, we'll talk about it on the Discord server. It's pretty quiet at the moment, there's not that many people in there, but I would love to really grow that. And my next kind of big plan for Patreon is I want to give you guys some exclusive subscriber giveaways. So that's the plan. I've got loads of plans for that. Just waiting for a few more people to join the club and jump on board. But you guys are the ones that really help me out. I've just got some new camera kits on the way, and that was just down to my Patreon supporters. You guys are absolutely amazing. I cannot thank you enough. But thanks everybody for watching this video, and now we'll jump into some Exocrine tactics. Right guys, so as always, you can follow me in your Tyranid Codex. And today we're going to concentrate on very much a forgotten son of the Tyranid Codex, which is the Exocrine. It's very much not a unit that's in flavour anymore. It's a unit that very much was in flavour at the beginning of 8th edition. And slowly but surely it's faded away from the kind of the limelight. And I would say on the whole, possibly that's very rightly so. But there's still a lot of you guys that have been asking me for Exocrine tactics, how I would use my Exocrine and how to get the best out of him, how to take them in a list, and you know what to go for. And I'll also be really honest with you. I'll start to talk about some reasons why maybe he's not the best choice. Maybe he's not the one to go for. Because what we've covered already, we've covered some really cool units. And I've tried to go for the units that I would very much recommend as my picks for the go-to units within the Tyranid Codex. Now we're starting to go to some of the outliers, some of the ones that are around the edge, some of the ones that are not necessarily your first picks, but are still great units to use in the game. So that's why we're going to start covering some of these kind of fringe units, but we're going to talk about how to get the most out of them, because if you want to use these cool units, I want to help you use them. So the Exocrine is a unit that is very powerful used correctly. He is a big beastie, nice and tough, definitely can take a punch. So he is, of course, he's a monster. He is quite slow, only moves 6 inches. He's strength 7, so he's not very strong, but he's quite strong. But he is toughness 8, which is awesome. really makes him quite hard to deal with. He has a 3-up save, only leadership 6, but that very rarely comes into play. He does suffer from instinctive behaviour, so he is going to need a little bit of synapse support to make sure he's targeting where he wants to target. He does have a degrading profile. I'm not going to go over that in detail because, as I've said before in these videos, these are advanced tyranid tactics, which means that we don't always cover every little bit of basic. The big thing with the Exocrine is his gun. So he has a bioplasma cannon. Now the bioplasma cannon is a heavy 6, it's a strength 7, it's a -3, and it's 2 damage. The 2 damage is really nice. 2 damage is nice because it's consistent, and always take a 2 damage weapon over a D3 because you know you're always going to get the average. It's always better. Don't ever go for those. You learn the more you play the game. You don't get suckered in by that I must have a D6 or I must have a D3 weapon and think about that optimum 3 or 6 damage. Think about those consistencies. Think about that 3 damage, think about that 2 damage. Think about something you could always play the maths hammer a lot more accurately when you're playing around with weapons, the way you know what that damage output looks like. The more variables you've got, the more likely you're going to fail. So, having that 2 damage is nice, and having the -3 is very strong. Very, very strong indeed. Now he's got a few sort of special rules which make him very powerful, and ones you always are going to need to really consider. So the big thing with the Exocrine is he starts off at ballistic skill 4. So for him to be ballistic skill 3, he needs to stand still, and then he adds 1 to that ballistic skill. He also, if he stands still, he gets to shoot his weapon twice, which again is very, very cool. And bear in mind that is shooting that weapon twice, so you can choose 2 targets, which is important as well because the weapon's got quite a lot of kick to it. You might not want to overkill one unit. You might want to put 6 shots into one thing and 6 shots into something else, which is a very viable tactic to consider. But sitting still is ever so important. So some things straight away to factor in when you're playing these guys. If he moves, he's in all sorts of trouble. This weapon is a heavy weapon. So, because this unit is this gun is heavy, not only does it mean that if this guy moves, he is hitting that ballistic skill 4+, but also because it's a heavy weapon, he moves, he's then another minus. So he's actually then hitting on 5s. So basically, if this guy moves, he is useless. Absolutely useless. Which is a real problem. A real problem. And the reason why it's a problem is because he only has 36-inch range. So that means you've got to be ever so careful where you deploy him to get your full bang for your buck. Otherwise you're going to find you're in trouble very, very quickly. And that's where, yes, the Exocrine can be very, very effective, but you've got to play with him quite clever. He's not someone you can just bang down and he'll just do the job. You need to play with him very, very smart. So the way to play with the Exocrine is place him in an area that gives you the widest span of danger areas. And particularly what you want to be doing is covering objectives. Covering places where you know the opponent needs to come to. So I've played the Exocrine quite a few times, and I find he's a unit that your opponent is very scared of. In fact, the Exocrine people find more scary than Hive Guard, which is kind of wrong because Hive Guards actually they're more dangerous than an Exocrine on the whole. But something about the Exocrine scares people, and because of that, people will be very, very wary of going near him. So you need to use that as the tactic to your advantage. So you need to be placing him in a position where he's really trying to stop your opponent coming anywhere near that threat range. Because even if he's not doing any damage, he's actually already providing quite a useful role in your army because he's protecting ground. He's taking space and giving you the opportunity to advance on that space and take key places, whether it be objectives or just advantages for being in certain areas of the board. So you need to deploy this guy very, very smart. he's always going to be a unit that you probably going to look about slapping down on the board quite late on in your deployment. You don't want to put this guy down early. That might sound obvious, but it's very important because people will just avoid him, because as soon as they come out of his range, they know that he's not going to hit anything. You bear in mind that on top of the fact that as soon as he moves hitting on 5s, it's not unusual for him to be facing down against things that already have an inbuilt -1 to hit, and then he's absolutely useless. He's just not going to hit them. So you need to place this guy smart. The other thing that you need to obviously do is you need to be placing him with a synapse creature. So your last 2 units, generally if you're playing Exocrines, is you're going to be placing him last with a synapse creature, because a clever player, particularly if you don't have loads and loads of synapse, a clever player is going to know that your backfield defensive unit synapse creature is probably going to be near Exocrine, so you slap that down, he's going to know where the Exocrine's going. So keep him guessing, and keep like playing that mind game where the Exocrine's going to go, what area is he going to be really kind of throwing down that threat range. That's really important tactics with the Exocrine, because his scare is a big factor of this unit. He's a big intimidating unit with a big old gun that potentially is not as scary as he could be, but there we go. So yeah, so putting him in a key area is important. I would always advise taking this guy in combination with a Malanthrope, and the reason why is because he's toughness 8, he's already quite resilient, but he doesn't have an invuln save, and he only has a 3-up save. So he is gonna, against high damage, high AP weapons, he's going to die pretty quick still. But you put him with a -1, with that toughness 8, he's still going to take quite a while to chew through, which even if he dies is just going to buy you more time. So by putting a Malanthrope there, you're also doing a great job. Particularly if you're taking this guy, you're probably taking him in quite a shooting orientated army. You can use that Malanthrope's -1 to buff additional units around as well. So I think that's really, really key and really crucial. To deploy this guy with a Malanthrope would be my advice. You could use 3 Venomthrope, but people will go after and kill those Venomthropes pretty quick. The Malanthrope, obviously, because he's a character, is really hard to target. So that's the Exocrine himself, and some basic tactics around how to kind of use him and make the most of him in your army. So let's, as we always do, let's talk about the Hive fleets and how best to take him. It's pretty simple. So we won't go into every single Hive fleet, but there are 3 Hive fleets that benefit the Exocrine most, and 1 more than any by a long way. So the 3 best Hive fleets to take him with, you have Leviathans, given that 6+ after save. So it just means that, you know, you put him with a -1, he's got 3-up, he's toughness 8, and then you have a 6+ save after damage save. So that's pretty good at keeping him alive. Not too bad to go for at all. The Jormungandr is also pretty strong, because he's never going to be advancing, so he's always going to get that +1, you know, to his cover. So that then puts him on a 2-up, so he's a toughness 8, but he is a 2-up save, making him a little bit more resilient as well. A 2-up save is so much better than a 3-up save in this game. That sounds obvious, but it really is. There's a lot of AP2. AP2 is really common, and AP1 is really common. And a 2+ save against those things, you've still got a pretty good chance of making those saves. So that's really good. But by far, by a country mile, if you are taking an Exocrine, you should be taking him in a Kronos detachment, because Kronos means if you sit still, you re-roll 1s. Now you always want this guy to be sitting still, so it fits perfectly. It is a marriage made in heaven. Do not take your Exocrine really unless you are taking him in a Kronos detachment, because you want to be re-rolling 1s. You want to be hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. Then you've got 12 shots, pretty high strength, good minus AP, doing a fair bit of damage, and you're rerolling ones. That's really, really solid. You just want to be doing it. You just always want to be doing it. So if you take an Exocrine, take him in a Kronos, team him up with other units that benefit from that reroll ones. Hive Guard, Biovores. Build your list to really shoot if you're going to take this guy, and make the absolute most of it. So that's by 100% the way to go. We're going to talk a little bit about stratagems. Again, not going to go in huge amounts of detail. There's not an awful lot of stratagems that really work well. It's a real shame that single-minded annihilation does not work on him, because it has to be infantry. So the ones that do really work, and there's one particular that I'm going to try and find that is very strong. So by far the real strongest stratagem for this guy is the pathogenic slime. Now this is 2 CPs, which is quite expensive, but it's very powerful. Now use the stratagem in the shooting phase. It's really key that you totally understand this. So use this stratagem in the shooting phase. Select a tyranid monster from your army. Increase the damage of its attacks by 1 for this phase. So the great thing about this is it doesn't say the beginning of the shooting phase. It doesn't say once this guy shoots, when selecting this guy. It makes it very clear here, and until this gets FAQ'd, and I think it does need an FAQ, and unless I've missed it, I don't think it's been FAQ'd. So you just use this in the shooting phase. So you can use it at any point in the shooting phase. So when you can do this is when you can do this when your opponent has failed its saves. So you can literally wait. So you can go, right, I've made 12 hits. I've made 6 wounds. Your opponent then saves all those. So you go, right, I'm not going to use it. But next time, your opponent makes those 6 saves and they fail 5 of the 6 saves. Well, you were doing 2 damage. You then crack this stratagem at that point, because it doesn't specify when you use it. You use it at that point, and then suddenly those weapons go from doing 2 damage to doing 3 damage. That's very powerful, and that really makes this guy maybe that little bit worthwhile taking. So seriously consider him because of that stratagem alone, because suddenly he's then doing a little bit more damage than Hive Guard to quite a lot of things, because he's going to 3 damage a pop, hitting with the same amount of shots generally, with with a lot of targets, hitting, wounding on the same thing, having -3, but then doing 3 damage. So that definitely makes the Exocrine something that's worth considering, definitely worth considering in a Kronos detachment. I would definitely consider playing him with that, and I've found it quite effective. So using that stratagem to really creep up on people with, I'm going to hit it now. I don't like it much, it's a bit cheeky, but it absolutely is fair game, and I don't think it's OP in the great scheme of things for the amount of points that an Exocrine costs and the fact that it's 2 CPs, but definitely you want to be using that. There's not really that many other stratagems that I really heavily recommend. You can be looking at rapid regeneration, definitely, potentially. If you want to, he starts to go down to the next tier, you use the rapid regeneration, get him back up to his more, more nasty level. There is, I think there's one where he can shoot. No, because that's characters. That really kind of is it, to be honest. So the last one that I will talk a little bit about is Onslaught from a Psychic Powers. So as far as your stratagems, that's pretty much your stratagems to look on him. He doesn't have very many that really work on them effectively, but if you've seen any that you like and have been using with an Exocrine, educate other people, let them know in the chat, let me know. Really interested to hear what you think is a good solid stratagem. So let's talk about Psychic Powers. Now, there's a couple of big psychic powers that work really nicely. First one is Catalyst. Make this guy even more survivable, give him that 5+ after save. Works really nice with a toughness 8 creature with no invuln, really helpful. So Catalyst is good, but also Onslaught is key. So Onslaught will potentially be a get out of jail card, potentially definitely one that I don't normally take for many things, but Onslaught for Exocrines is really good, because Onslaught on a warp charge level of 6 means that you target the unit and it can shoot this turn even if advanced without suffering any of the penalties to hit rolls for moving and shooting heavy weapons or advancing and shooting assault weapons. So basically, if he moves, we know where all those problems are coming from. We then do Onslaught on him, and then it's as if he didn't move. So you can use that to quickly get him in a position that maybe surprises your opponent. So your opponents deploy that key unit just out of his 36 inches, you then move him 6 inches, cast Onslaught on him, suddenly he's just as nasty as he was before. It's one definitely, again, just have up your sleeve on maybe a couple of psychic creatures just to be able to kind of throw out, because it potentially might, you know, throw a few people out that they weren't expecting. So it's definitely one to consider. And that's it really. That's the Exocrine. So how would I best use him in an army? I would use an Exocrine in an army predominantly in a very shooting defensive army. So you want to be taking him with lots of other nasty shooting units. So taking him with Hive Guard, taking him with Biovores, you're taking a big shield of gaunts to protect him, to make sure that nobody's going to get in at him and start shooting at him, and start assaulting him. But you want to be really basing a very heavily shooting army around him is the way to go, and then have lots of danger. Probably take 2 Exocrines, take a unit of 6 Hive Guard, take some Biovores that I still rate, I still think they're good. Maybe take some shooting Carnifexes as well, slowly advance them up the board, potentially with -1 to hit. Get some Malanthropes in to protect all your backfield, build yourself a firing base, and then really cover all those objectives. Your downside is always going to be, with a lot of this great Tyranid shooting, is the range. That 36 can be a limiting factor, which is why I think potentially shooting Tyranids still suffer against some of the armies that just have the range to deal with them. Knights are probably just going to put them away at range with their better shooting. But if they come to the objectives, you cover your bases, you play it smart, you've still got an opportunity of doing some work and definitely hitting people very hard. So definitely a way to try it, worth a play around. Hopefully that was useful for you. Let me know how you get on with your Exocrines. If you're finding them really useful, I want to know about it. And until the next video, thanks very much for watching guys, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.